This is Adolf Hitler. Along with people like Stalin and Mao, he is one of the most evil people who has ever lived. And as you might expect, anyone with visions of global conquest is probably going to have some nice things for themselves. Here's Hitler at his mountain retreat in Berchtesgaden. He's obviously having a good time. These are some of the US soldiers who came to Europe to squash those global ambitions. Now, as they moved closer to the heart of Germany, they started collecting some souvenirs for themselves. And the ones who got to places like the Eagle's Nest and the Berghof got the really good stuff. Well, right now I am at the Gettysburg Museum of History, and on the History Traveler series, in one of the episodes that we did here entitled War Trophies of the Third Reich, Eric talked about how one of the most prized possessions of the US soldiers that they would acquire is silver, namely Hitler's silver. There is a whole lot more detail and a whole lot more intricacy to this than what you might imagine. So, Eric is going to show us some of the ins and outs of the silver that came out of Germany in World War II.
On a previous episode, we talked about American war trophies of the Third Reich, and I went into some of Hitler's silver, and I mostly focused on the really big pieces, the very rare pieces. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the smaller pieces and the serving pieces and the utensils. So the first set I want to talk about is what we call the formal set, and these are some serving pieces. And it's made by a company called Bruckmann, and it has the National Eagle with the AH, Hitler's monogram. And the bigger pieces like this are pretty rare. In a set there would be one or two of these serving pieces, and then there would be maybe 12 to 24 eating pieces. So this is a fork, also of the formal pattern, and this is a spoon. So those are used for everyday eating at a table, where the other ones are servers. This is a gravy server, this is a sauce ladle, this is a master asparagus server, and this is an aspic server. And that's one of the biggest pieces, and it looks like a little mirror. Some people call them the Fuhrer's looking glass, some of the collectors. Now that set was used for state dinners and very formal occasions, and it was found in everywhere Hitler was. You would find this at the Eagle's Nest, you'd find this at the Berghof, you'd find this in the Führerbau, you would find this in the Reichschancellery, and there was a little bit found in his apartment, but what you would mostly find in his apartment and what was used for everyday use was this pattern, which is also made by Bruckmann, but we call this the informal pattern. And it's basically the same thing. It's the National Eagle with the AH monogram, but it does not have the same Greek key edge that the other pieces have. And also the eagle is less detailed. The quality isn't as high as the formal pattern, but this is the pattern that Hitler would have used on an almost daily basis in his apartment and the Führerbau. And that's the only place this is found. This was only found in Munich, where the other formal patterns were found in the other locations. And moving over here, we have also the DR marked fork, and that's from his train, and that's the DR is Deutsches Reichsbahn, and that would be on his personal train. And just a couple other interesting Hitler pieces. This is the shaker set from the bar set. It's a tumbler basically, and it's got the roll stamped eagle. It's made by Wellner, and that is a very rare piece. But we didn't feature that on the last video, so I wanted to show it to you. Also, there's the coasters. Now this coaster is for water glasses and most types of larger glasses, and has the AH, no eagle on it. It's made by Wellner. And this is another napkin. We showed the more fancy type on the last video. This is the more informal type that you see. Again, the eagle and the AH monogram. And this is called a Stemware Coaster. And this was made by the company that made the wine buckets. And this has a roll stamped eagle with the AH. And these are extremely rare. There's probably less than a dozen of these known to exist. They're much more rare than the more common AH Wellner type.
So as we mentioned in the History Traveler video where we talked about war trophies of the Third Reich, all of these items were acquired, I guess you could say, by U.S. soldiers and then brought back as souvenirs. But aside from that, they tell us a little bit about the character of Adolf Hitler himself. I mean, just look at that. He has his initials stamped on everything. So that tells you a little bit about the character of the man himself. He was looking to leave his mark everywhere. So these are some of the Hitler pieces, but there are other pieces of silver that were brought back as well that Eric is going to talk more about.
A few other pieces of silver from the Third Reich that I want to go over is, here is a knife, it's a butter knife, and it's stamped FB, and that indicates that it comes from the Führerbau in Munich, and that would have been used for, they had almost like an employee's mess there, and of course there was mostly high-end people, high-ranking people there, so they still use fine silver. The second one is what we call the Diplomat Pattern, and that features a national eagle, slightly different than the one you see on the Hitler silver, but this was used by Joachim von Ribbentrop, and it's his personal set, and once in a while that stuff surfaces, and that was mostly taken from his home. These next two are Hermann Goering, and the first one features an eagle with Reichsmarschall batons, and that's what collectors call the wedding pattern. It was supposedly a wedding gift, but that may not be correct, but that's what collectors call it. The next one is his personal set that came from a set that was in his personal aircraft, and it was a lunch set. And you also find this at his home in Berchtesgaden, and it has his personal crest, and it has a knight's gauntlet holding a ring surrounded by some fancy engraving. The next one is marked HH, and that's Heinrich Himmler's personal set, and that came from his home. And the next one is EB, and that's Eva Braun, and we happen to have a complete set of Eva Braun silver that was found in the tunnels up at the Berghof, and it was taken by a guy in headquarters, 506 Parachute Infantry Regiment, 101st Airborne. So it's one of the only complete sets. And you see that EB monogram there, that resembles a butterfly. And that monogram was designed for her by Albert Speer. And you see that on a lot of her items. And we also have a Hermann Goering cup here. And again, that has, you can maybe see it a little better. It has his crest there with the gauntlet and the ring. And that was also taken by a 101st Airborne soldier out of his home in the Obersalzberg. Now, there's a couple books out on Hitler silver, but the real great book, if you can find it, is this one. It's A Collector's Guide to Liberated Adolf Hitler Memorabilia by Dr. Mark Griffith. And this, he documents all the different types of silver and other items. And this book is long out of print. But if you're interested in this material, this is a great guide to have. And once in a while, I want to come up on eBay or other sites. Now, Dr. Griffith is composing a new book, a coffee table type book, and this is a printout of it that he gave to me. And this is pretty much will be the ultimate guide to Third Reich silver, and it's due out sometime. He's been working on it for a long time, but when this comes out, this will put to rest a lot of the myths and misinformation about Hitler silver. And I want to say, you know, Hitler silver is very fascinating. People, when they come in the museum and they look at it, they really tend to focus on that, and you know, it's very interesting that so many American soldiers brought this home as war trophies. And you know, once in a while we do get some for sale on our website. You can go to the Gettysburg Museum of History.com, and we'll have some, and we authenticate it ourselves, and we you know, we write a letter on it, so they'll come with certification from us guaranteeing the authenticity of it. So there's Hitler's silver in a nutshell.
All right, well, that was a little bit more on some of the silver that came out of the Third Reich in World War II. Things that soldiers brought home as mementos and as souvenirs and as remembrances. So again, we can learn a little bit more about the history of World War II and some of the people involved in it whenever we look at these little pieces of the puzzle and start putting them together. Very fascinating. All kinds of stuff here at the Gettysburg Museum of History.